Bo.
Mm.
Mamdani. Whatever you say his bloody name. He got elected, didn't he, in New York? This fifth columnist. So I thought we didn't cover the election, but I thought we would just talk about it. Really, we've got his top 5 priorities here, which we'll look at in a minute. But I thought we'd just talk about it because one angle when we talk about this is lots of people from the States love to look at Britain and go, you've been conquered. You've been conquered by Islamists, and you go, that's a fair assumption to make whilst looking at the current state of England, right? It is a fair assumption to make from an outside perspective whilst not being here, right? You've just voted in an Islamist mayor of the city that was attacked, which basically led to, I mean, massively long wars. So what are you doing? What are you doing? Who's been infiltrated? I'm not. This isn't going to be like gloaty, but it's definitely worthwhile pointing out, isn't it? That what a weird turn of events. I mean, World Trade Centers, Muslim terror attack. I know. Let's vote a Muslim in charge of New York. Like, no, that's just weird. Not only a Muslim, a supposed was it social democrat? Social democrat. He's a socialist. He's a communist.
Communist, yeah.
And an Islamist first. Remember, their faith is always the priority. A horrible thing. Foreigners shouldn't be allowed. They should not be allowed to vote. They should not be allowed to run for any political office in the Western world. I'm so sick of this weird subversion. I couldn't go to Pakistan and get elected. Why do we do it? So what's your thoughts, first and foremost? What do you reckon, mate?
Yeah, so of course it's a travesty and a sickening thing for New York. But yeah, just to build on the points you made, there is a rather, I must say, I've noticed a rather annoying trend for some Americans, up to and including the likes of Tim Pool, no less, to point to certain things that happen in Britain and say, you've been colonized by Islamists. It's all over. You've been conquered. With an element of like, it's your fault. You brought it on yourself, right? You should have been better. It's your problem. It's your fault. You voted for it. And it's annoying because that's simply not how it works. That's just not how it works. We never, ever wanted millions and millions of these people in our country in the first instance, for a start. So we didn't do it to ourselves. We didn't vote for that, right? And then when it comes to action, for example, Sadiq Khan or the mayor of Birmingham or whatever, again, we, the white natives, didn't vote for that. That was against our will as well. So again, in no real sense do we deserve it, or we've done it to ourselves, or we've been too weak in some way, right? Short of boogalooing 40 years ago, right? And so now America, and again, I don't want to make this a gloat, really don't, especially as an Anglo-American myself, really don't want to make this a gloat. But now you got a taste of it yourself. Yeah. The normal people, the nativist people of New York, or the average American, white American, that lives in Idaho or Colorado, wherever, they didn't vote. They didn't get any say in Mamdani running New York. But there you go. You've been conquered. Well, no, you haven't been conquered. You haven't been conquered. Some fifth columnist won an election because the electorate was packed with his tribal supporters. That's not the same as being conquered, is it? Is it, Tim Pool? It's not the same thing. Okay. Now, but it is interesting that, like, New York, obviously, used to be one of the greatest cities in the world. They used to sort of say it could be the capital of the world, right? In a way, London was at one point a de facto capital of the world, but whatever. Anyway, let's not talk about that particularly. But yeah, in a famously very, very Jewish city, New York. I wonder if there'll be a white flight or a Jewish flight from New York when we talk about his priorities and things. And yeah, he's absolutely an Islamo-communist, certainly a hardline socialist, if not a full Marxist Leninist. I doubt he knows that much about political philosophy, to be perfectly honest. But certainly, at least you can say is a hardline socialist. But yeah, it is Islamo socialist first and foremost. Yeah, because religion will always come first with these people, absolutely always. And it's just a shame for New York because his policies will almost certainly make that city a lot worse. I wouldn't be surprised if in just a handful of years it goes back to the dark, dark days of the 80s or a lot worse. Where it's like Escape from New York levels of sort of anarchy almost. I wouldn't be all that surprised.
Yeah. I think again, just building off the general sort of back and forth from this conversation, it's sad. Like it's genuinely sad. Us in the Western world, we've never needed to deal with such tribalism and ethnic in-group preference, and so we've slept walked into disaster. And that's you as well, America. You welcome foreigners far more than we do in England. Like we are radically against foreigners being in our country. Radically against. They always have been. You know, you can come and work, but you're not staying, and you can't be British. It's a thing which we've always maintained. It's been subverted at this point, but America welcomes people, and if you just sign up, then you can become un-American. It's not how we view it here. We do view it very, very, very differently. But equally so, both nations have just sleptwalked into a disaster because America, for some unbeknownst reason, you don't allow foreign-born people to run for president, but you do allow them to run for political office, other political offices. Why? Shouldn't be the case. Shouldn't be the case. There should be no foreign-born people running for political office in any of the Western world. There should also be no foreigners allowed to vote in elections either. Right? How do we not come to the conclusion that would subvert elections? And it would lead to, well, this crap. Like, it's sad. It's sad, and I'm not singling America out. It's both of us. Both nations have done this. And yeah, it's sad. Like as you say, Escape from New York. Yeah, I mean, New York doesn't exactly have the best rap for the subway. Wasn't that poor woman set on fire on the subway? Absolutely brutal and just truly awful things happen on that. But it's going to get worse, and they're already estimated that people are just going to leave already. So yeah, let's have a look at some of his priorities, shall we?
Well, one other point I'll just quickly make. Just had a tiny bit of a pop at Tim Pool there. I actually quite like Tim Pool a lot more than I used to, even. And I listened to him there. I listened to him a bit, and he's a friend of Carl Benjamin, and he's all right. But he made a good point actually the other day.
I think he's a fence sitter, but all right.
He's actually less of a fence sitter than people say. If you listen to him,
all right, fine.
Anyway, he made a good point, I thought, which is perhaps a little obvious, perhaps it's not, but I thought it was a good point where this certainly accelerates the process of polarization, because a load of people that Mamdani's enemies, whether at the ballot box or in the wider context, will leave, which leaves his voting base even more powerful, right? So, and again, extrapolate that out into a broader trend that, the East and the West Coast cities, there's more and more white flight away from the West Coast cities, well, the West Coast cities just become more and more and more and more left, more and more and more foreign, essentially. And by extension, the rest of America becomes more and more red, in the American sense, not in the communist sense. More and more Republican, more and more conservative. And well, that's polarization, isn't it? So this would certainly accelerate polarization, at least for New York City, no question.
Yeah, Yeah, massively. Yeah. I mean, it will be very difficult to get to pull it back from there, though, without sort of congressional oversight. Senate oversight, basically ruling no foreigner should be blah blah blah, all this other crap. But anyway, top 5 priorities as mayor. Found this. This is like 2 days old at the time of recording this, so I thought this would be a good way of looking at it.
Here we go.
So I don't care about this navigating Trump's attacks. That's not actually relevant to what he wants to do personally. That's just this shitty article the New York Times wanted to say some crap. Universal free childcare. There's that word there, isn't there? Free. It's not free. That's not free. That's not free at all. Could cost $6 billion per year. Who do you think is going to pay for that? You, New Yorkers. You'll be paying for that. So leave whilst you can.
Free gibs for the children, largely of new arrivals.
Yeah, foreigners.
Yeah.
100% foreigners. The people he thanked in his speech. Yeah. So good luck paying for some Somali kid to be looked after for free whilst the Somalians doss around and doing nothing. Because remember, there is an ethnic component to work ethic, and some people don't have any. Some people do.
And the kid will grow up or will be brought up to hate you in America. Okay. Enjoy paying for that. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Apparently, this would require support from state lawmakers, though.
Oh, well, it's a slam dunk then, because they're all Democrats, right?
Well, yeah, because apparently Mamdani's already seemed to win over the governor, a Democrat. So,
sure.
That's done, apparently. So, well done. You're going to pay for that. A rent freeze.
Oh, my God.
Now, don't get me wrong. Rent is way too high. But one thing everyone always misses out in this equation when they talk about housing. It's always this. It's always supply. Generally speaking, right? There's another component to that equation, and it's demand. Supply and demand. Conveniently, left wingers always miss out the demand part because the demand always comes from foreigners. And they love to miss that out. Again, we're no stranger to it, guys, in the States. Our left-wing retard politicians always miss that out. They always talk about supply. We're going to build more. We're going to pave over everything you love in the countryside. We're going to build Mega City 1, Britsit. That's what we're going to do. 2000 AD up in this bitch. Right? Rather than go, yeah, the demand's too high, actually. Your rent is high because the demand's high.
Yeah.
Supply and demand. So they're going to do a rent freeze. What do you reckon of that?
This is a classic 101 commie bullshit. Right? Now, don't get me wrong. It's not like I love landlords. Right? It's when commies moan about billionaires and I moan about them moaning about billionaires. It's not because I love billionaires. It's not because I love to see one dude with all the money in the world and everyone else struggling. It's not because I love that. No. It's not about that. It's not about that. It's about that this isn't good economics. This doesn't work. Whenever you do rent freezes or pricing freezes of any type, it never, ever works. And I'm talking about ever. You can go back to the ancient world. The Emperor Diocletian tried this. It didn't work then when the economy is the most simplest thing in the world. It's like the most simple in and out ledger of all time. It still didn't work. When you try and freeze wages, you try and freeze prices, you try and freeze rents, right? It will collapse in the end. And it screws up everyone, right? Maybe you just look at the rent it costs to live in New York and you think, well, that's far too high. It's not fair. Well, that may be the case. Well, it is the case. It is too high. It is unfair, but that is the market because the demand is so high. Exactly as you said. The demand is through the roof. And so the market can demand a high amount of rent. If you don't address that, if you ignore that, and the central command economy, someone like Mamdani comes in and say, here's an arbitrary number that the rent cannot be above. Trust me, bro, it ends in a collapse. It ends in insanity. You end up with a really shit place like Cuba or Venezuela. So good luck with that again, New Yorkers. Good luck.
Apparently, that's a really quick one that they can deliver on as well. So.
Because then the landlords or the owners of these properties won't be getting enough money, and they'll just let the property go to shit. That's why Havana looks like it's falling apart. That's why the cities in Venezuela are dog shit, because you didn't let the market do its thing. All right, there you go. All right. I don't know how many times price freezing has to be tried and how many examples you need to point to say it doesn't work. Again, commies, socialists don't care about that. They don't care about that. They've got their little agenda. It's not a little agenda. They've got their giant agenda, and they'll try it again and again and again. And so what if your country goes to rack and ruin in the meantime? So what? You deserve it anyway. You're Western. You're white. You were capitalists. Screw you anyway.
Yeah.
Fine. Okay. Fine.
Yeah. Apparently set a vision for the police department, because Mamdani was obviously one of these people that was like, yeah, defund the popo. So now he's going to oversee the police department, and it's more than 34,000 officers. So police union leaders did not make an endorsement in the mayor's race, but they've criticised Mr. Mamdani as not pro-police. Mr. Mamdani seems eager to build bridges with officers. Mr. Mamdani has said that he wants to keep the current police commissioner on board. He's apologised to officers over his remarks in 2020 when he called police racist, anti-queer, and a major threat to public safety. Beyond every headline and beyond every caricature, what I found is a New Yorker simply trying to do the best they can. I know that this is the case for NYPD officers. Why do you insult them then, you cunt? Like, what?
Can you get more double speak than the police are a problem with public safety, public security, that the police are the problem? Can you get more insane? Can you get more backward? I mean, talk about subverted. It's been subverted inside out, like a sock pulled inside out. It could not be more backward.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
It's mad, isn't it?
Well, loads more people will get assaulted and murdered and raped in New York because of this policy. Almost certainly. I guarantee. Well, we'll see exactly what he does, what he means by a new vision. But if it's anything like defunding the police, then yeah, there'll just be an increase in human misery. Will be the net result.
That's pretty bad already.
Right. Yeah.
So here's some other nonsense. He wants to create city-owned grocery stores. Yeah. So like cheaper groceries, I guess. I don't know. I mean, that's dumb. It's really dumb because it's not like New York. It's not like the powers that be in New York have farms, and so thus and factories, so they can sell this stuff cheaper. No, like it's not how it works. So that's just dumb. He also wants to make free buses. It won't be free. It won't be free. He wants public buses to be completely free, which would cost $630 million a year. So you pay for that. So well done. Someone else, the MTA, told the Gothamist website that it would actually be close to $1 billion. So again, well done. Yeah, done. And all of this, a lot of this is going to be done on corporate rate tax. So he wants to raise it to 11.5%. Because it's currently, corporate rate tax in New York currently goes up to 7.25%. So he wants to raise it, to 11.5. He wants to add a flat 2% tax for New Yorkers who make more than $1 million a year. Apparently that would raise $9 billion. Not if they all leave, but all right.
Yeah. Oh, that's
also wants to raise the minimum wage by double.
Sure.
Basically.
Of course.
So currently $16.50 per hour, and he wants to raise it to $30 per hour by 2030. Now, I'm not one of these people that's pro. I'm not one of these people that is that sort of pro business exploitation, right? Like employee exploitation. But I am one of these people that understands that actually minimum wage can actually be detrimental for the market, both like just the overall economy, because especially in the UK, and it'll be the same for the States as well. If you introduce a minimum wage, you might have, no matter where you are, you might have a broad national economy that is doing quite well. But a broad national economy is propped up by various locations that are more wealthy than others, right?
Mm-hmm.
The same as the UK, London. So the UK is a poor country propped up by a very rich city, London, and that's getting staggeringly worse and worse each year. So you can't really introduce a national minimum wage when top north in the UK, top north, there's like no economic activity up there. There just is none. And so businesses will shut down when you introduce things like that, and probably have done on the back of it as well, because they can't pay people that, because they aren't earning that much money.
Right.
There are just like there are microclimates. Look at economies on a macro level. There are macro economies in a nation, and so actually minimum wage is generally one of the worst things you can do to a country, I think. And that's not me being pro exploitation. That's honestly, but it's just looking at it from a statistical reality.
Yeah. All those things you've mentioned. If you scroll back up a little bit, just so I can mention the things.
City-owned grocery stores,
city-owned grocery stores. So again, a command economy, a centralized communist economy. Doesn't work. Public buses are free. Then it's not free. It's not free. Exactly as you said. It's not free. Cost of childcare. Yeah, again, it's got to be paid for by something. Corporate tax. They will just leave. Yeah, just watch the exodus of companies leaving New York then. Why, if you're at a company, would you stay in New York if you can just go to Texas or Florida or wherever, Idaho, wherever? Go to set up in Luxembourg. Right? Why would you stay in New York if you don't have to? And the minimum wage thing, once again, just classic commie 101, well, socialist anyway. Yeah, not commie actually, but socialist. Yeah, it's not because people like us, people like you and me, a normal, reasonable person, in other words, a rational person, it's not because we begrudge poor people a bit more money. It's not about that. It's not about that. It's about the fact you will just force whole companies to close then. And then the people that are working minimum wage won't get anything then. Right? Yeah, it's not a case, is it, in New York City 2025 that there's true child exploitation like 18th century mill owners in England that were getting little kids to work for free, or getting chimney sweeps to work for essentially free, like forced labor. That's not what's going on here. No. The market, at least to some extent, has set $16.50 roughly. It could tinker around with the edges of that, but just to up it to 30, well, in that case, that's the whole bottom line for a lot of companies. So they just fold. They just simply cannot do that. Or they either move or they fold. And so now their employees are just unemployed. Brilliant. Good job. Yeah. And it's not like we've seen that exact thing play out dozens and dozens and dozens of times throughout history, throughout the world. Right? And they'll say, "Oh, you you just hate poor people. You want rich people to be richer and the poor people to stay poorer. No, I'd rather that businesses exist. That's what it is. Nearly every business, the biggest expenditure is the wages of the employee. If you force by law that company to pay almost twice as much, then unless your profits are massive, and again, most companies that isn't the case, most companies will be on quite a small margin. If you force them to pay nearly twice as much, that's it. They're out. They're out. End of story. So well done. Well done.
Good luck, New York.
Destroys everything it touches. Really does.
Yeah. Yeah, no, really, really does. Good luck, New York. Genuinely, good luck. And if you're in New York and you're planning to leave, let us know down below in the comments. I would genuinely be curious to hear. Genuinely.